Okay, mamas, I have Anna here, and she's going to be sharing some of her expertise on the sweet spot, right? She's going to dive into the brain and everything that has to do with your daughter. And when it comes to learning and developing, maybe you're struggling with how much should I allow her to do on her own, and how much should I actually support her? And if you're confused with that, then you're in the right place because Anna is here to kind of break that down and help us understand a little bit better uh, from a brain cognitive standpoint, but even as a mom of teenagers herself, how we can guide our teenage daughters there. And as we're talking on the topic of navigating the teen years on executive functioning based strategies for thriving through more freedom and independence and less structure. Wow, that was a handful. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Anna Levy-Warren. She is the founder and chief executive officer of Organizational Tutors. She has 20 years of experience in the field of psychology, including a PhD in clinical psychology, and she's a leader in the field of addressing executive functioning challenges in students of all ages. She has an expert understanding of diverse learning profiles and firsthand experience as a parent. So Anna brings to Organizational Tutors a unique combination of clinical experience and a passion for empowering learners to develop skills to excel in all aspects of their lives. So you're in for a treat. We have Dr. Anna Levy-Warren from Organizational Tutors here to speak on executive functioning and how that pertains to you and your daughter. If you are frustrated with how to get your teenage daughter to open up to you because all you want is to connect with her as you once did, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Jeannie Baldomero, a former rebellious teen, now mom of 3 young adults, educator, and the mom mentor, equipping you to create open communication with your girl so she can come to you about anything, even if she's scared. So grab your oat milk latte, breathe, and let's do this together. Hey mama, this is my invitation to you. Join me in the Talk to Your Teen Girl framework. It's a 6-week course that will get you started in creating a space for your teen to feel safe and respond in a way where your teen girl will feel heard and understood. You are building trust so you can get what you want most from your daughter, and that is to come to you about anything, even if she's scared. So head on now to talktoyourteengirl.com. That's talktoyourteengirl.com. Hi, Anna.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, first, before we start, why don't you just introduce yourself? I know I read your bio just earlier, but
hmm
I think it comes out better when it's you introducing yourself and how
Okay,
you came,
great.
right? And how you came about what you do.
Wonderful. I mean, so I'm a clinical psychologist by training, but I really focused on what, is a fancy word is neuropsychological assessment, but is that battery of tests that people do to figure out sort of learning disabilities and challenges. And I started about doing it 20 years ago and found that there was no one to implement the findings when kids had really complicated relationships with learning and particularly executive functioning challenges. So I started doing that work myself and formed a few companies and really focus on complicated learning profiles and emotional obstacles to learning across all age groups. And then, of course, as it happens, right, I was an expert in all of this. And then I had 3 kids, and 2 of them have very significant executive functioning challenges and dysregulation. And was brought to my knees as a parent. So I really have this experience of both learning and telling everyone what to do, and then having to learn to do it myself, which was quite a different process. And that brings me to today.
And I think not only do you have the knowledge of learning all that, but being a mom with students that you've actually studied
hmm
about and having to implement in your own life, I think it makes it even more genuine and authentic about what you're going to teach and help us to do,
Absolutely.
right? And so
Yeah. And yeah, I really had to come by it the hard way.
and it's not really the hard way. It's actually implementing what you've studied and say like, okay, that theory was wrong because blah, 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 blah.
That's totally true. I think for me, the reason it's hard is that it is a it is hard to sometimes acknowledge that you know something with your brain, but you can't implement it even if you want to. So I think that's what was hard for me. It's like, oh, I really need to do this. I need to learn how to do this for myself, not just tell everyone else how to do it.
Right. Well, and that's what makes it even more qualifying. As I was a former educator too, and I decided to stay home when I had my third child, and we homeschooled. And I was like, wow, this is so different as a teacher who is teaching my own kids than if I were
Yeah.
teaching other people's students. So I understand we're on the same level plane as far as experience. So when you say executive functioning, I love that phrase, and it's a unique phrase, but I would love for you to kind of break that down and elaborate a little bit more for moms who are listening. What is it and why is that important?
Sure. So, executive functioning, it's like the CEO of the brain. It's like it's an umbrella term for an interrelated set of cognitive processes,
Mhm.
which is a very fancy way of saying that it covers it's all different parts. It's not just one spot.
Yeah.
And really it's working memory, self-control, and mental flexibility is what we're talking about. But the ways that that's manifest and what people talk about most is that that's really planning and goals, task initiation, decision making, time management. It's about the regulatory system.
Yes.
So it's so many of the different things that we need, both for learning, but also just for functioning in life, like getting in and out of the house, managing the calendar, knowing what's important and unimportant. So it's so many of the things that, especially in the teenage years,
Mhm.
we need our kids to do, right? We need them to know how to get to school, get to soccer practice, come home and do their homework. All of that takes executive functioning. And we know that when you have strong executive functions, it's actually really protective for your mental health and really leads to academic success when it's strong, and that the deficits in those areas can really cause problems.
Right. And okay, since we're talking about the teenage years and you're talking
Yeah.
about executive function and all the things that are needed for that, how have you, in your experience as a mom of teenagers, felt that the changes happening in the teen as far as hormonal changes, attitude, emotions, how has that impacted that function?
Oh, I mean, first of all, the pandemic also really took a toll on everybody. And, if you have any kind of diagnosis or like depression or anxiety or ADHD, there's usually a developmental lag in this going anyway. But it's the period in which we really expect all of these this executive function to strengthen. And so many things can get in the way, including just sleep deprivation, right? So, and stress. So what's so complicated is just the time where we need all of these things to be going so well. There's so many different ways that they get derailed. And so we have to really be sort of empathically attuned to when these go off the rails and how do we scaffold well
Right.
in those different moments.
Okay, well, since we're diving into that, how would you suggest to moms listening right now exactly how we can scaffold? How can we first identify it,
Mhm.
identify what they're capable of, and then being able to scaffold it, meaning support them at the level that they need so that they're not fully feeling like a failure, but feeling supportive enough that they're not being enabled as well.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, I have listen, I did that is the my forever question. But with my daughter, one of the things I really noticed from an early age is that she really struggled to even get out of the house, right? That it was like a really, and I get out of the house very quickly and I'm very organized, and it would just drive me crazy. And I would find myself escalating, like, where are your shoes? And like, where's your backpack? And did you grab your lunchbox from a very early age? But it actually, she reaches high school and I'm still watching her walk out without half the things she needs. And I found myself banging my head against the wall and trying to either making sure everything was ready for her, which was sort of the thing that it was like, fine, I'll just do pack everything and make sure you have it all.
Because it's
And check.
easier,
Oh, it's
right?
so much easier for me. So much easier for me. Or I would get frustrated and I would be like, do it yourself.
Right.
And what I really had to find is what is her developmental age in this area? And I was like,
Mhm.
she looks like she's 14, but actually she's developmentally 10
Mm,
in this particular way because it's an executive functioning scale and she doesn't have it and she's behind. So what I started to do is just think about her growth edge and where she could be successful in that. So I would leave her backpack and like leave her folders next to her backpack, and I would leave her lunchbox open, and I'd leave an empty water bottle, and I would set it up that like, here are the things that you need to do. And then I made a checklist, and then she started taking over the routines that she needed to do until there was automaticity. And when I saw more automaticity, that's when I started backing off the things that I was doing and let her grow into it until I noticed that she actually like didn't need me doing anything anymore. But it really had to do this sort of incremental change around how I strengthened that particular weaker set of skills in her. I mean, she's up when she does her poetry or her singing, you know, she sounds like she's in her 40s. She's much better than me. But when she's getting out of the house, she could, you know, she's more like 10. So I think about her developmental age and I scaffold to that spot.
You know, that's actually pretty cool and pretty enlightening that you mentioned that, because sometimes we just look at our kid as a whole kid and think that in every area of their life or every developmental area of their life, they should be at their age, right?
That's right. And we look at like these chronological milestones,
Yes.
right? You're 14, act 14, but actually
Yes.
you're so many different ages inside. We all are, right? And
Yes.
so there's this amazing, you know, and that's why I also love internal family systems and looking at parts work, because we all have parts of ourselves that are different ages. Like, you know, honestly, right, when I'm sleep deprived and upset, I'm like, where's my dinner? You know, and I sound like I'm 15,
Yeah.
you know, right? So it's like
Yes.
I need to be sometimes treated like a small child and being given my food if I'm over hungry. And so I need to attend to my, you know, teen and tweens like in the same way. Where are you developmentally in this space?
Right. And that's a great way of looking at our daughters. And actually, I talk about grace a lot, just giving a lot of
Mm,
grace in
yeah.
certain areas, even for yourself. You know, I mean, a lot of mom, we could be developmentally 10 trying to raise our teenagers because we've never raised a teenager yet, unless you have your third teenager. And then you're like, okay, I'm a little more mature here
Yeah.
in helping guide my teenager. But to think about like each child and spreading them out on a string and looking at different areas and really reflecting on, okay, what age level developmentally are they at, actually allows us moms to really sit back and say, okay, where does she need me to guide her, in what area, and what areas am I allowed for her to do? Like I talk about gifts. Like some people, I mean, my daughter's a dancer. I'm like, she's way developmentally developed
Hmm.
as a dancer, but as when it comes to time, you know,
Yep.
she needs help with that. And what advice would you give moms, because I know that's what they struggle with, is to hear you say like she's developmentally 10 and you put her backpack out as a 14-year-old. I think a lot of moms would struggle with that. I mean, what advice would you give?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think of course we struggle with that because there's something frustrating and disappointing, and it can even bring up feelings of failure. Like, what did I do that my kid doesn't handle their own backpack?
Yeah.
Or even that, like, I have to get to work, you know, like I don't have time for that. And
Yeah.
and listen, I want to just own that that was really hard for me. I don't want to take care of her that way. And what I had to recognize is that you don't grow someone up from 10 to 14 because you're yelling or you wish it to be different. You grow
Mhm.
them up from 10 to 11 to 12 to 13. So it's not that I'm not trying to get her to 14, it's that I'm really paying attention to her actual needs, not my wish, and really trying to lean in. And in the spaces that she excels, I really lean on her. Like she's actually, you know, she's been a babysitter since she was very young. And I was like, great, you can take more responsibility for taking care of your brothers that I would normally put on a kid of her age because that's a strength of hers. So I really just try to think about who she is as a whole person in that way, and to try to think about all the different things that she's doing instead of getting frustrated at the areas where she may be falling, quote unquote, behind. But if, and also just want to leave space for like, of course it's frustrating, but I don't think you make change by saying, I need you to act older than you are, even
Right.
though you don't know how.
Right. And I love that. And I think that's a great way to have moms identify the areas of need, is if you're feeling frustrated when she does this, maybe this is an area that needs support, right?
Yes.
Versus, because I could see how moms are like, I just don't know what I need to help her with. But if you can step back and really understand, like, okay, what area is, do I notice that she constantly is struggling with? And is this more of a rebellious thing, or is this really developmental, right? As you said, that your daughter has always struggled with getting out the door on time ever since she was little, and it hasn't changed as a teenager. And maybe that is something moms that an area, whatever area that she's always struggled with, may be an area where she needs to develop more age appropriate and something that we need to care for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And even with resistance, one of the things I like to think about also is it's always going to be better if it's collaborative. So instead of me sitting there and saying, here is your agenda for how you're going to get out of the house, and like I'm putting your backpack here and you have to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, Amara, I'm really struggling with the way that you try to move yourself out of the house. I want to be helpful. Like, what do you imagine would be helpful for you? And it could be a harder conversation, but I prefer her say, well, at first you might say, well, I want you to do everything for me. Just set it up for me. And I'd be like, listen, if I do that, you're going to get frustrated. I'm not going to make your lunch the way you want to. So this is what I can do. How does that work for you? And when we make the collaborative plan, then there's more buy-in and there's movement. So even if you have a kid that's resistant or that they're just trying to get away with something, or, there's a framework, like I really don't like the term lazy, but sometimes you in your head think like, oh, they're just not doing it because, they're privileged or entitled or lazy. It's like, well, then they're also struggling. So
Right.
that's okay. Then they're younger in their motivation. They're
Right.
younger in their, self-drive, and towards doing this on their own. So that's okay. Whatever it is, let's just grow it together and be really thoughtful about it. And I love, just another thing I will throw in there just from the executive functioning side is that I really think one of the most beautiful things we can do is help kids hold a calendar in mind. And so doing the kind of calendaring once a week as a family or sitting down and presenting what the week looks like is extremely organizing and helpful for all kids. And that's a way that you can also try to anticipate problems and work with them. I'm like, oh my goodness, it looks like you have a really tight transition between this and this, and what can we do about it, instead of finding yourself every week in a frustrated spot and going head to head with a kid who's like, I don't want to rush from this thing to this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, we talked about it, great, let's figure it out together.
Right. I love that. I love that idea of setting up the week to be successful and anticipating some conflict that might happen within the week, and then better preparing our kids. Like I do this with my husband every Sunday about,
Yeah.
well, we did it when we were raising our kids. Not so much now because we don't have to worry about them. But as we were raising our kids, every Sunday we'd come together and talk about who's doing what through the
Yeah.
week to avoid, miscommunication. But I think it's a great idea to involve the teenagers, especially because they have their own schedule and they might have some conflict. And it's such a great way to open that conversation for some guidance and for some help in that. So I love that. I really do.
Yeah. I think that those conversations, what's so hard as parents is we're so busy, we're so overwhelmed, there's so much going on. It's very hard to make the decision to slow down and go over the week. But if you really actually think about the numbers of problems you have in the week and what you could potentially anticipate and prevent,
Yeah.
then it's like, all of a sudden that becomes really valuable and we can really shift our perspective on it.
Right.
And so that's actually the way that whenever I think I don't have time for this, I think, do I have more time to do this now without conflict, or do I want the conflict later? And that might really, drive us into more time and more problems.
Right. And some emotion because they're in the middle of it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, my house is so chaotic in so many ways. We have so many big feelings, and one of the hardest things for me always was, what do we do when we get into these battles? How do I help change it? And one of the things I've always hated in giving parent talks is my slide on modeling, because everyone rolls their eyes like, great,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thanks for telling me I have to model behavior, and but I really tried to reframe it for myself, which is like, listen, if I can model something and have it be impacting my kids versus making them do it, I'm going to take that every time.
Right.
So I started to do the thing where, like, when my kids freaked out, I started, saying, I'm going to go take a breath. Instead of being like, you need to take a breath.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go take a breath, and I'm going to go calm myself. I'm going to regulate myself, I'm going to go reset. I'm going to go take a walk. And they looked at me at first horrified. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to leave. And I was like, no, but this actually is the thing that works, because I'm modeling what it means to regulate myself.
Yes.
And it's much harder to make your teen regulate themselves.
Right. And it de-escalates any type of
Yes.
conflict, right? Because then you're not having two people heighten, you're just having one. And maybe that one person, when the person leaves, like de-escalates.
Yeah, totally. And I did silly little things that were executive functioning strengtheners too. Like you have a visual timer, and I was like, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes and I'll be back then. So everyone knew I was coming back. I was showing everyone, modeling like the amount of time. time, and that includes things like going to bed on time and so much stuff about screens, like how do we scaffold with screens. I really sit with my kid and like go through my teenager, going through like, what is the access that you have? What do you want to change? Let's look at my phone. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
I actually don't want to be on social media more than 14 minutes a week. So
Yes.
I give myself that amount of time. How much time do you want?
Right.
And one of the other silly little things I just will say in this right at this intersection is I recommend all teenagers have a lockbox for their phones and that they with a timer so that they learn to put their own phone away and take their own phone out versus getting into a battle about taking phones. And that's really, it's like, how can you have an approach? How long do you want to put your phone in the box for? Let's
Right.
all like close it off. Let's all put our phones away. It
Yes.
just really shifts the dynamic and it helps strengthen these executive functions. It helps regulate and it helps have a better relationship where they can be more independent, but you're also modeling this kind of growth that they need.
I just actually did an interview with a representative from the Better Sleep Council, and that was
Oh,
one of the ideas was, it's hard enough for us to regulate ourselves to get off the phone at night
uh-huh.
for that downtime, let alone allow your daughter or your son to have a phone in their room and expect them to like turn it off without being tempted. But I love the idea of having a lockbox and everybody put it in there because everybody's held accountable. The standard is the standard. If we all truly want to have some good sleep without any distractions, parents aren't susceptible to being tempted to be on their phone. And it's a great model of this is what I'm committing to. And of course, the likelihood of your kids jumping in that as well. It's not hypocritical of us to say like, hey, you put your phone away, but I don't need to. We do this together and we decide to do this as a family and as a team, which I think is awesome. I love your demeanor right now and how you invite your children into conversations about things that maybe you're struggling with your teenager, but making it collaborative. That's something that we talk about all the time on this show is how can we invite our kids in the conversation? If we're trying to guide them in something, do we look at ourselves first? It's like, are we doing it first ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how they model. It's like we can tell them all they want, but they're not going to know what it looks like, because they haven't been modeled that, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I always say is put the problem on the table, right? Like, let's put the problem on the table in front of us and figure it out. Like, it's not actually between us. If you're late to school, that's not like you need to be on time to school. Why aren't you on time to school? How do we get you to be on time to school? It's like, hey, can you sit with me and figure out how we change this problem because you're getting feedback from school that you're not on time. Like, how is that feeling to you? Like, what are we, let's leave room for the whole process where we can really be in conversation about it differently. And I think that that is the only way that we actually make change and actually our teenagers grow versus hate us. I mean, that's the really, and there is a real, like, teenage years have a lot of separation, individuation, but also escalation, right? So it's really
Yes.
easy to be on the bad side of that split and
Yep.
to really, go from good to bad to I need you, I want this, I hate you. And
Yep.
all of that is a roller coaster, not just for them, but also for us
Yes.
as parents. It's so exhausting.
Right.
And so the more that we can say, let's just stay together in this, I think the better it is for everybody.
Right. Keep the problem, like you were saying, keep the problem on the table. And it's not my problem or your problem. It's a problem that we're both going to identify and find a resolution that best helps the person that has the problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I really do like that. It makes it less, what's the word? Judgmental, right?
Yeah. It's not your problem,
Right.
right? It's our issue. It's
Right.
our challenge.
Right.
And that includes when mistakes are made, right? Like, oh, look, it looks like we made a mistake last night. We didn't use downtime on your phone and you were up till 2 a.m. And so now you're exhausted. Looks like we made a mistake. What should we do to change it? How do we deal with it? Um, and also like, that old school, right? Held, hugged, heard, right? Like it's really helpful to also think it's like, when is your child, your teen ready to listen? So asking consent to have those conversations, I think is actually really important. Like, is this a time when you can hear me, or are you central nervous system activated right now and angry and self-protective? Because if your protectors are out, we're not getting anywhere.
Mm-mm.
So I like to say, like, tell me when it would work for you to have this conversation. If I have haven't heard back from you by the end of the day, like I'll pick a time tomorrow. But let's go out. And this is the other thing. It's when we're mad about something, it's so hard to know that we need to fuel our kids first. So when you have to have a hard conversation, I'm like, let's go out to your favorite place for dinner. Let's buy you some lip gloss that you've been wanting. Let's go do a thing and then let's have that conversation.
Yes. Yes, it's not manipulative at all. It's setting up a conversation.
No.
It's setting up the environment. I actually talk about that in our framework, that talk to your teen girl framework, about setting the stage and knowing when the best time to talk to your daughter is. A lot of times moms want to talk right after school. I'm like, maybe for
Yeah.
you, because you haven't seen them all day, but she's exhausted mentally.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she'll even say anything to you. She can't even
Yeah.
describe her day, let alone reflect on it.
I know, and I also, the other thing I'm a real advocate of, especially when there's tension or conflict, is putting things in writing. Old school, whip out a piece of pen, like a piece of paper and a pen, and write it out. And especially if something is hard, I will start with like, like, dear child of mine, right? Like, I love you so much. I really know it's been a hard week. I see all of these good things that you did, and I'm really struggling with the feedback that I'm getting from school. I'm hoping we can sit down and talk about, what some of these challenges have been and what we're going to do about it. I'm thinking tomorrow after dinner, does that work for you? Instead
Mm,
of having verbal outbursts or back and forths or trying to chase them down, how do we really stay together, even having the conversation?
yes. Yeah, you're having the conversation without actually having the conversation, like verbally, right?
Right,
Yeah, but
exactly.
you're
It
staying
keeps the
in,
temperature.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
staying
it takes the temperature
connected.
down.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Oh, I really do. And I'm a hardcore journaler, so I'm always about write it
Great.
down. And sometimes when you're writing it down, it gets filtered, so it's not
Yeah.
a reactive coming out of your mouth, and you're like, okay, I need to retract everything I just said because
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say it that way. Okay, well, I mean, as we start to close on our talk, is there anything else that you would like to talk about on this topic that we haven't covered yet?
I mean, I guess the only thing that I think is helpful to understand, especially as teenagers, and like, as a psychologist, I can't help but, think about psychological well-being and health in this way, and the intersection of that with executive functions. And I just want to go back to the part and reiterate about anticipating challenges, that there are so many times when if we sat down, we would know when our teen will struggle, like when they will be tired and overwhelmed and stressed. And I think sometimes we're all moving so quickly. It's so easy to just cross our fingers and hope for the best, or sort of, not want to get into the hard conversation before it happens. But we just really know that that kind of open conversation, invitation, let's really sit down and look at what's going on. And also, let's leave room for the mistakes to be things we work on together. All of the scariest topics, from suicide and self harm and, the worst kinds of self hatred, are really should be open invitations and not things we're scared to think about. And I'm sure that you've thought about it and talked about it on your show before, but I really love the thinking of having hard conversations as something we're planning and scheduling and thinking about as a preventative measure.
Yes, and it's not, and these topics are not unfamiliar to your teen. You know,
Right. They
they
know already.
they
Hmm.
know, they're exposed to it, and what a great way to be able to talk as a family about those type of topics and be open and have an open forum to be able to speak about that, and really understand if they're struggling with some of these topics or in their own life as well, and being okay with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and because the more we talk about it, the safer they are. And that's actually the truth. It's the kids who talk about it that are safest. And so if we talk about, hey, I noticed that when you get sleep deprived and you don't eat, that you really seem down. I just want to tell you that if you're feeling really down, we can talk about it. And in those moments might be the ones where they're like, yeah, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And instead of being scared of that, to say, I really understand when I'm exhausted, I want to sort of escape the world too. And as a teenager, of course, I didn't want to live anymore in those moments. It's so scary and overwhelming. What if we really work on taking time to make sure you get back on a sleep schedule and get outside more? And let's anticipate the problems here. You have a big test coming up. So all those things together. And I like to put all the pieces together in that way and think about it.
Right. And it helped them explain that, yes, it may feel that way, but we know it's probably not exactly what they want to do. It's just how they're feeling because of all the circumstances that they're currently in. And
Right.
right. Oh, I love that. And it makes mamas, I know you're hearing this too. I hope you feel a little relieved after listening to today. Um, what's one tactical step or that they, after listening to all of this, and I know you already kind of alluded to that, but what's one tactical step that moms can do right after this episode?
I mean, I think my two big ones are the sort of as silly as it sounds sometimes, the thinking about your own calendar and week and modeling the sort of planning and anticipating we just talked about. And just one even tiny thing is the next time that you're having a moment where your own body is heated and you feel an escalation of saying out loud and taking your own pause and breath and modeling that. So I think those are the two, like those are the sort of most impactful with the sort of least effort, I think, as busy moms.
Nice. I love that. And mamas, I hope you take that advice and just start. Start for yourself and see if that makes a shift in understanding your teenage daughter and your teenagers, your family, and seeing if it makes an impact on their behavior as well. And I can guarantee, like, if they can anticipate and you can anticipate as a whole family what's to be expected during the week, I think the week might go a little bit better for you as far as emotions is concerned. It might fall apart, but you at least anticipated it, right?
But then you can take a pause and you'll practice. So it's great.
Exactly. It's an opportunity to practice and grow from that.
Exactly.
Well, Anna, where can our moms find you if they want to know more about what you're doing and your work?
Oh, thanks so much for asking. So, organizationaltutors.com is my coaching company where I help kids with complex learning needs. And then for the moms who might be struggling, I have a company just for the adults called steeladvising.com. And then I'm at Anna Levy-Warren PhD.com just for I deal with complex family systems and thinking about all those dysregulated kids and how to help parent them better.
I just thought this was a fascinating topic to talk about. And mamas, if you are fascinated and interested as well, go find her there and connect with her. Thanks so much, Anna, for being on here and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, friend, if this podcast inspired you or encouraged you or helped you in any way, I'd love for you to share it. You can screenshot this episode and share it in your stories on social media or text it to a friend who can use the support. It's the best way you can thank me. I want to let other mamas know they are not alone. I'd love to stay connected with you. You can find me at raisingherconfidently.com. Until next time, live full of grace, Jeannie.